TV umpire to director, we have a review. Can you rock and roll it for me, please?
Welcome, everybody, to the second episode of Rock and Roll It, the podcast where we go deep into topics that the real cricket fans are interested in. There were a lot of discussions about the name of this podcast. There were discussions about us calling it Deep Point, but apparently that was already taken. So we've gone with Rock and Roll It. And for today, we're going to be discussing this third test, rather, England versus India at Lord's, and going into what made it such a great test and where it was won and lost. And I've got Siddharth Monga and KK, two of our finest writers at Cricinfo, to discuss the test with me. Siddharth has been watching it live at Lord's and KK following it from the Bangalore office. So let me start with this. I'll start with you, Siddharth. Where does this test rank among the best tests of this decade, say?
I'm I'm not always comfortable with these comparisons because every test match has got their own situations. The teams are in different stages of their development, of their progress. This is a very young Indian team against a kind of experienced England team at home. But certain numbers can tell you how close this was, how closely fought this was. It was one of the only 9 tests out of, I think we have played more than 2,500, where the first innings were level after uh, like almost 3 days into the test, and there was nothing to differentiate between the two teams. And just looking at the larger picture, it was 1-1 in the series, 387 versus 387. We had almost finished 3 days, and then that 1 over happened, which ignited the series into popular imagination also, uh, where a lot of sledging took place. So in terms of, and also the pitch was really good. This was the first good pitch of the series, which uh, which which was which kept the bowlers in the game without making it, diabolically bowler friendly. So there was something for everyone there, even for the spinner, as we saw with Washington Sundar. And on the fifth day, just because I was here, you could see the difference in the environment, the atmosphere at the ground. Because on the fifth day, what happens at Lords is they usually pre-sell only first 4 days of tickets, and so it's only on the first 4 days that you have these uh, corporate programs and MCC patrons. And like, I think I could be wrong. I think the starting ticket for the first 4 days is about 170 quid. So I don't know how many real fans get to enjoy the atmosphere. It's more like a social event where people are, wining and dining and networking for their businesses and blah blah blah. On the fifth day, it was more like a more working class fan, a real fan, as you use the term, who could get in for 25 quid, who and that atmosphere was completely different on the fifth day, where every block, every dot, every single, every good ball, like people were like really really engrossed in the match. So it was a great test match. I don't know, I mean, we were discussing before starting, there have been a few great test matches in this decade, when West Indies beat Australia at Gabba, in India versus Australia in Sydney. Um, so I would say in the top handful for this decade, which is not faint praise.
I guess I'm just getting old or whatever, but I tend to remember things a lot more vividly from my childhood and like teenage years than things that have happened so recently. So, and in the immediate aftermath of this game, I find it kind of hard to like be like, okay, no, this is better than that, or this, though those are the tests that rank alongside this. But yeah, I'll go along with Munga in the sense that it was so competitive right through, right? Like 387, 387. And we had I mean, the possibility was there of until, the start of the final session of the first ever tied tests where both innings are tied. And so that sort of possibility was there. And that tells you how great a match it was. And that finish was something else. Like, it was so engrossing to watch. Like, where like you were getting 1 run every over on average for an entire session, and you couldn't take your eyes off it, which is like one of the unique joys of Test cricket, where you know, uh, like nothing happens in the sense of like the scorecard moving quickly, but you know the significance of every little movement that happens, and what that does to, you know, to the state of the match. It's not the greatest test of the 2020s, probably, but yeah, deserves to be spoken about among in that conversation.
I mean, you were talking about the possibility of a tie on the fifth day. The way India were batting, there was possibly even a draw on the cards.
Exactly. Yeah,
And
all
even the
for
way the bail came off for that last wicket, it felt like even the bail was reluctant for this test to end. Just sort of tipping off like that was quite a fitting end in a sense to the
yeah.
test.
Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah,
and the recall to like another great heartbreaking for Indian fans finish from like 1999, which
And we didn't have so many replays, access to instant tweets with the broadcasters and the host board putting up that clip of that last ball back in '99. But here we could see it again and again. And poor Siraj, he had all the awareness. He actually even tried to kick it away very instinctively because he knew this was rolling back. This was going to topspin back towards the stumps. He actually very instinctively went back and he just kind of his left leg went towards the ball in the general direction of the ball and just missed it. And then if it had just kept going on in the straight line, it would have missed the leg stump. On the second bounce, as it generally happens, as Kamran Akmal always tells people, "Ghumegi, ghumegi." On the second bounce, it actually turned towards the stumps, and which is why it hit the leg stump. And just the irony of us all series complaining about soft balls, and the result coming from a bowler who has broken his hand trying to field the same soft balls, and Siraj having taken a blow just on that ball on the arm, and just the irony that even these soft balls are so hard in cricket.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, this is one of the rare instances where maybe doing more football practice before games might have helped Siraj.
and poor guy, he's one of the football fans in the team. Him and Kuldeep Yadav.
even
Yeah,
with the tribute to Diogo Jota.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into properly discussing the test, when and how it was lost by India, or when and how it was won by England. There's a lot to discuss over all 5 days, but I want to start with what's in most recent memory, which is day five and after lunch on day five. Because at lunch, okay, India were 112 for 8. The game looked over. There wasn't much hope among any India fan really that they could win the test. But then what happens is after lunch, India actually survived 35.2 overs after lunch against a ball that had gone soft on a pitch that looked like it had got a little bit dead. They scored just 58 runs after lunch in those 35.2 overs. And of those, Jadeja batted 128 balls and scored 44 runs at a strike rate of about 30. Now, of course, I mean, I think the overarching feeling is that this was a valiant attempt by Jadeja. He's batted really well. But then there is also a conversation about, could he have done something a little bit more? If you look at similar chases that have happened, and there are very few of them that have happened in Test cricket from these kind of situations where a team is 8 down with still, in this case, 80 runs to win. In other cases, it's been 60, 70. Usually, you find one batter who is, the sort of proper batter batting at a higher strike rate, 60, 70, and then the tail enders kind of batting around that and figuring out a way to survive. So, Monga, Siddharth, you can start off by telling me, could Jadeja have done more? And if not, why did he only manage to score in singles and not boundaries on that last day?
I think you answered yourself in this question when you said there are such few chases of this nature in Test cricket. So what happens is that at if it's like 1 in 20, 1 in 30 of those situations end up in a winning cause, we forget the other 29 which ended up in a loss where the batter might have tried to do what famously Ben Stokes did, or all these great chases Kusal Pereira did, and it comes off. but we don't remember the other 29 because hey, it's an 80-run defeat. The guy tried. There's a high amount of risk in doing what Ben Stokes did in that chase in Headingley, or Kusal Pereira did in Durban.
Or
Or
Lakshman in Mohali, another example where he scored at almost
yeah, I'm coming
100
to that.
circuits. Yeah.
Yeah. So Lakshman in Mohali, Shane Warne at Edgbaston. Now Shane Warne had Michael Kasparovich with him and Brett Lee. Sorry, first he had Brett Lee with him. Brett Lee could score runs. Bumrah here, Bumrah and Siraj have shown they are not capable of scoring runs in this series. They are capable of hanging out, of holding on, and we could see Bumrah. There was always a false shot when there was a short ball bowled at him. He was lucky not to have connected with any of the ones before. Who knows? Those top edges could have flown for sixes. Uh, so that is one thing, that we forget all the failed chases, and we only remember the glorious chases that people like Ben Stokes and Kusal Pereira have pulled off, and VVS Lakshman have pulled off. Even VVS had Ishan Sharma with him, and that was a time when he decided, "I'm going to trust you." Now, this is also a decision you make. It has both its pros and cons. I'm going to trust you even for 5 balls of an over, probably because it was at home, and it was Australia did not have the quality of spin bowlers that were required on that pitch to be threatening. So all those things come into it. Now the other thing is Jadeja. What actually works for Jadeja in this condition, in this situation, or in this series is that he's an old school batter. He is he's so old school that he doesn't even defend with his bat out in front when he's defending spin forward, like most of the people who have adjusted to DRS, and they try to avoid LBW, and they keep he still defends with bat beside the pad. He's that old school. He's the purest batter in the sense that batting is supposed to be a reaction to what is bowled at you. He does not premeditate. He does not have trigger movements. He does not charge. He does not go back and across. He's just very organically reacting to the ball after it has left the bowler's hand, which is what allows him to play such calm innings. And he has the fitness and the endurance to be able to, say, I can bat a whole session taking a single every over. Now, what he doesn't have is he's not AB de Villiers. He cannot play reverse sweeps or dabs or this or ramps or reverse ramps to manipulate the field. So once with an old ball on this slow pitch, once they spread the field, he had very little to work with. Even the square was lush. And it's not just India. Even Joe Root, I think, must have missed out on at least 20 runs or 30 runs, both innings put together, because his most fruitful shot is the dab to third man. He can place it between gully and slips, or to the other side of gully. But what happened here is he was playing the shot. A, the pace of the pitch was slow. B, the square was lush. The ball never challenged gully. Even if it was to the left or right of gully, he could field it. So there was very very little to work with. And now with the old ball, we have discussed a lot about what Rishabh Pant does. Oh, he charges out to first ball, second ball. We're looking for patterns. If you look for another pattern, whenever he has started with the old ball, he has not charged out because he knows this old ball might not travel. Because a lot of modern batting, inspired by T20, is also in relying on your mishits to carry. Famously, Andre Russell has said, "I want to be so strong that even my mishit should go for a six," and that's what I work towards. So that you could not guarantee. So there was a lot. The risk and reward was not in Jadeja's favor, I think, on this occasion. Uh, uh, could he have tried a few more couples? Probably, probably not. He could have got run out. He could have chopped on. He could have got out, edging. Uh, there was once he tried, and it was slightly disappointing that Bumrah was not awake to it. There was one shot, and it's only one shot in the whole partnership where he could. Uh, and there were times when you could see he was thinking, have I hit it in the gap? He would take 4 5 steps and then decide, no, I have not. But there was one point where he decided that there's two here, but Bumrah was not quick enough at that time. But these are just picking, we are just being very microscopic for reasons, and we're looking for reasons where the reasons don't exist. The reasons for India's defeat existed on day three.
Which, to put it in one word which we've used a lot, is juju. Uh, right? And think back to Stokes and like the missed run out, that LBW when Australia had run out of DRS. All those things also went in favor of, and that happens in any big inning. So I'm not saying like Stokes. Yeah, I am kind of saying that Stokes has more juju than most, but I'm not saying that that's the only reason. Of course, he played a magnificent innings and all that, but somehow or the other, or it like life tends to kind of work out. Like luck tends to go in his favor, right? Think about Lakshman also. Think about like that LBW that was kneeled on Pragyan Ojha, but not given. No DRS also. So yeah, that win became possible there. Here,
And
like
I,
Mohammed, here Siraj middles a defensive shot and it rolls back onto the stump. So
yeah.
yeah, you were
Uh,
And
saying?
I just wanted to add that, yeah, I'm one of the leading proponents of the Stokes Juju theory, but I've seen him suffer also in that World Cup final last over. He did not bowl badly. It was such a wet ball in Calcutta 2016 to Carlos Brathwaite. He actually just missed his first Yorker by about 6 inches. It was a wet ball, Eden Gardens, very small ground. They were not clean hits, and he had to come back from that. He was next morning I saw him at the breakfast, and he was he was completely gone. So he's, it's not like Juju doesn't go the other way. So he's had Juju go against him also. So yeah, I mean, it's chaotic, it's messy. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. You just have to keep turning up like they will in Manchester.
I'll just make the opposite argument here. And I want to make it clear that, yes, I'm judging Jadeja on a very harsh scale, but that is the scale of greatness. And I think most of us agree that Jadeja is one of the great all-rounders of this generation, right? Now, I know you talked, Monga, about there being, a lot of chases that have failed, but then there have been chases, for example, like Ben Foakes nearly getting England across the line at Wellington, where at least he sort of made an effort to really go for the runs. And okay, England have fallen short, but it felt like at least an attempt to get past the line. Whereas at times it looked here, and again, I fully agree that India had already kind of lost the test by lunch on day five. But then it seemed like at points Jadeja was almost waiting for the inevitable. If you look at, for example, he faced 25 balls of spin, and they were just too aggressive shots against spin. There were times when Stokes was leaving the mid off up, kind of tempting Jadeja to go over that fielder. And there was a question of, yeah, of course, I mean, he can hit it straight to the fielder and get out. But then at least if he gets a couple of boundaries away, there's pressure back on England. And the other thing is that if you actually look at the phase just before Bumrah got out, it was a strange case where India were not scoring runs, but Jadeja was actually not even farming the strike. In fact, in the 39 balls before Bumrah got out, Bumrah faced 23 of those balls and Jadeja just 16. And India got only 9 runs, out of which 4 were leg buys of Bumrah's pad to fine leg. So I mean, what do you feel there? Was Jadeja caught in two minds because at times he's looking for the single of the last ball but not able to get it. And then he's also not going for the boundary of the last ball when the field is up. And you're ending in a situation where Bumrah is anyway facing all 6 balls of the next over and you haven't got any runs. So, I mean, is that phase in particular a time where Jadeja rather could have done a little bit extra, especially with the spinners coming on?
I don't think there was the mid-off was ever up for spinners in the first 4 or 5 balls. It might have been one or two times on
No,
the
that
last,
was
might have been up.
from
And Bashir did not did not give it any air. He was bowling in flat. So now he could have got a boundary, but he was trying to do the more pragmatic thing of trying to pick up a single and grab the strike for the next over. That's what I
yeah,
felt
and
against.
my
Yeah,
yeah, I think so. Stokes had like pretty much everybody out except Slip and himself standing at like a wideish mid off, but not close to the bat, not single saving, but like not like deep either. So a kind of like in betweenish mid off. So there was a clear invitation there from Stokes, and which yeah, I mean he could have taken it on, but I feel like he may have thought, and again, you can't say one is a better way of going about it than the other, given that from, I don't know, more than 100 required with 3 wickets to go to like a 22 run defeat or whatever it was. I mean, those runs did come, right? It wasn't like they were in complete standstill. And it wasn't that India didn't have the time to play this way either. And there was a thing of like, okay, if we get to the new ball is going to come on to the bat a little better. And England will have to think if we are getting closer and bring the field in maybe or whatever. So all these calculations come into it. So yeah, of course he could have taken on that mid-off fielder, hit a couple of, but also the fact that like whenever he did try, even there were a couple of like kind of attempted like hard hits, straight drives or on drives, which barely dribbled into to like the guy at mid-on. It was either like barely coming onto the bat or hitting low down on the bat. So I
Yeah,
think Jadeja would have thought about taking that fielder on and thought, no, maybe I'll postpone that risk for a while because for now we are okay going like this.
and England were aware of the soft ball. It was so soft that if it was a regular innings, first innings of the match, they would have complained about it every over. But
Hmm.
here they knew it was working to their advantage, where they could bring the game to a standstill and give themselves a higher probability, because the law of averages has to catch up. Sometime at some point, something weird is going to happen in two sessions, where and it did happen. It could have been something else. It could have been a played on. It could have been a more regulation traditional dismissal. But they were just playing on the probability of giving them every extra over to go at it. And Jadeja was trying to do it without risk. And it's not like not taking risk is not a risk. Not taking a risk is also a
Hmm.
very big risk. And
Yeah.
I mean, you know that everybody is going to come after you if
Yeah.
you don't win this match. He was actually putting everything in his own basket.
And like if you think about it, if you're a cricketer or and this is my game and I'll if I can win it, I can only win it my way. And Jadeja knows his limitations. He
Yeah,
can't like what separates Stokes from him in this regard is the fact that Stokes can hit good balls to the boundary when when he decides, okay, I'm going to take that risk. He will take that risk, and but he also knows that he can do it. And Jadeja, I think, over his entire life, his game has been tailored to like I react to the ball, and
and I only hit the bad balls for boundaries.
yeah. So and he was like trying to do it his way, which is like heroic in its own way. He could have been like, no, I can't. He believed enough in his own method to like just go on like that, and you got to give it
But
to
I
him
wasn't
for
it
that. I think.
inevitable that it wouldn't work? Because, like, okay, look, you look at Bumrah's dismissal. Bumrah was pulling everything short, and when he was trying to fend, the ball was almost carrying to short leg. It wasn't a dismissal that came out of nowhere when he pulls one and it goes up in the air. So, and okay, Siraj, yes, was looking okay against spin, but he's a number 11. So, was it not just waiting for the inevitable, kind of batting in
No,
through
no.
those
So
methods?
but
I
but
think
we are
it.
here. Yeah, we are here talking about how close India got.
Yeah. And see, we wouldn't be discussing this if Bumrah had got out like, with 80 to get, right? You'd have been like, okay, I mean, Jadeja can't bat with the tail is a narrative that's gone on for such a long time. And, maybe part of that is, yes, he doesn't like take on the good balls and like, try. It's not his game. But part of it is also that right through his career outside India, he's just batted with terrible like lower order partners. So in that situation, like a batter can only control what he can control, right? So Jadeja from his end is doing what he can do and what he thinks is best for the team that he can do. What happens at the other end, he can't control it. He can only try to control how many balls the other end gets to face, which he did.
And he played 30 overs out of the 55 while he was at the wicket.
Hmm.
And he scored 61 out of the 90 runs that came while he was at the wicket. Uh, yeah, so that period might not have worked out, but the intent was still to keep Bumrah off strike. Dustin, as you're saying, that period just before Bumrah got out, Bumrah faced more balls than Jadeja did, but the intent was to keep him off strike.
The intent was, but there were, I think, three occasions that you can locate of the last ball where he's defended the ball back to the bowler. Now, of course, I'm not saying that, of course, in his mind, he wanted a single. But again, I'm judging Jadeja here on a scale of greatness, right? Is a great
I'm,
batter in that situation forcing a single somewhere? That's my question.
I'm also going to point out the six that he hit. There was only one fielder in the deep, and he hit it away from him, but the ball did not travel. Ben Duckett almost got to it. It went so slowly from square leg to deep mid wicket. A, he was not able to place it. B, it went off so slowly that he was about 5 meters, 10 meters from catching it. This is something sometimes you don't get to see on TV how close that ball was to being a miss hit and being caught in the deep. So probably that discouraged him from doing it again, and that
And
he realized that I will only try to hit the boundary if it is like really this thing. And I mean, okay, it could be a case of Jadeja being meek or selfish, playing for not out, all those things. But who are we to know that? He's played Test cricket or international cricket for so many years, and is liked by his teams. Is relied upon by his teams to be in situations. We don't know. I mean, why are we taking the kind of nasty option here instead of
No,
you
no,
know?
no one is
and
claiming that he was batting for the not out. I'm not making that case at all.
Then what
I'm
else was he
questioning
doing?
again. No, no.
But what
I
else was
mean,
he doing?
no, no. I agree with you that he is batting according to what he thinks is the best way to win the test. My question is, was that actually the best way to win the test? That's my
So
only
either,
question. And
so,
so if
I
you
mean,
have, yeah,
let me just go out on be a little confrontational and say you are either accusing him of selfish or being dumb.
no, no, no. I'm not accusing him of either. Again,
So,
we'll move off
I'm saying,
Jadeja because there's a lot
I
of other stuff to
I
discuss.
also know
I'm
that you
also
are.
reflecting what a lot of people are talking about. I do
Yeah,
agree
yeah.
with you in many
I
ways.
wanted to bring. Sorry, I did
Yeah.
not mean you as in Dustin Silgado. I know
Huh.
you are trying to be the devil's advocate and you are trying to bring to this conversation what people are saying, so that this is not an echo chamber. Uh, I'm saying people who are saying this, I want to ask them what else. What are they accusing him of?
No, no, I
Being
think that I'll put it this way, okay? Like I've done rankings of great all-rounders. I have ranked Jadeja myself ahead of Ben Stokes, okay?
obviously.
And many people in India would agree with that. I think what people, and we'll move off Jadeja now because there's a lot of other stuff to get to in the test. Honestly, day five was not where India lost the test, but I think what people are just questioning now is for somebody who we consider as great, would this have kind of been that crowning moment that solidifies his greatness? And
Of course.
again, things work out certain ways. He couldn't do it. And but that's where the sentiment is that okay, it's more of if he could have done a little bit more, how amazing would it have been, rather than criticizing him and saying, you messed up. I don't think it's that at all, either from me or from anyone else. Anyway, let's move on now because we've discussed day five a lot. I want to discuss the other days of cricket and everything that happened. Siddharth, you said something very interesting after the first test, where you said after Headingley, you said you felt the better team lost. Okay, now I know you have a lot of stats on this test as well. Where I think the point you're making is that India are getting a lot right in their processes, batting and bowling. But my question for you is, one, would you stand by this after this test as well, that the better side or the side that got their processes right more lost? And if so, why is that happening now in two tests in a format where luck is not supposed to have that much of a role?
So this test was different. This test, I will give England a lot of credit for identifying some brief windows and making the most of it. Like that fourth evening was the time when they kind of picked on something. And this final innings, everything had to go right for England to win, okay? Because after 30 overs, the ball is going to get soft. Now they have two brief windows. One window is on the fourth evening, one is on the fifth morning. And now this is a very odd thing that not many have picked on. Ben Stokes chooses Bryden Cast to bowl on that evening a 7 over spell. That's because they picked on something that the batters batting from this end, from near end to us, basically Ben Cast bowling from pavilion end and only Bencas, only that angle, that height, batters were struggling to pick the ball. I mean, the way Karun Nair got out, test batters do not get out that way. There was it, and it takes only like a microsecond. And if you see in that spell of 7 overs, Cars bowled uncharacteristically huge amount of full balls, like almost full tosses, Yorkers, half volleys, and Shuman Gill, whom we have written so much praises for not ever playing a false shot to a decent delivery. It has to be like a very good ball to get him. He was missing full tosses. He was missing half volleys. So there was this period where England were very street smart in recognizing that moment and getting the right bowler to bowl that spell, which got them two huge wickets. If Gill comes out not out on the fifth morning, and we would have been about 15, 16 overs in, or how many, maybe 20 overs in. There's only another 10 overs left for them to get 3, 4 more wickets, so that once the ball is 35, 40 overs old, India have only one set batter and the tail in. Now, England were very good in that brief period. Ben Stokes was superb with the run out of Rishabh Pant. Uh, Joe Root was amazing with the bat. When I think it was the most difficult conditions on the first day was the most difficult conditions in this test match to bat in. So Joe Root was amazing. And on the fifth afternoon, just before lunch, Nitish Reddy and Ravindra Jadeja were looking very comfortable. And this is, if there is something to be, there's a small way of batting. Nitish Reddy will learn in time. Batting is also, of course, about middling the ball, but it's also about scoring runs. It's a very, very it might sound very harsh, but in that brief period before lunch, he was looking like he's having a net. Everything was pinging off his bat, but straight to mid off. So he will learn how to manipulate gaps. He's only 21 and he's only in his third or fourth test. Now, in that period also, Chris Wokes came and bowled a lovely spell. Chris Wokes is on his last legs, literally, in his test career. And he bowled a lovely spell just before lunch. And that wicket that he got just before lunch of Reddy, if he comes back, the ball was gone. That game was, India had a much, much better chance of winning this test if Reddy and Jadeja had gone not out into lunch. So there were a lot of brief periods of play where England inflicted maximum damage through their street smarts or through their awareness, which I will give a lot of credit to Ben Stokes for, because Ben Stokes, it's very easy to captain an attack which has four fast bowlers who are equally good, like Temba Bavuma did at Lords. I remember all these captains, former captains sitting in the commentary box were talking about, hey, now somebody has got out. You should bring Kagiso Rabada back because this is Steve Smith is the main batter and he has a good matchup, or whoever. Now, Bavuma didn't have to do anything because the pitch was helpful. He had four fast bowlers who were bowling beautifully. So he just had to give them 6 overs and they did the job. So there was no intensity let up. Stokes has had to manage an imperfect attack all his career. He's not got the best of Anderson or Broad. They were also on the last legs. He's got a very inexperienced attack now. And to coax stuff out of them, to get uh, I mean, Jofra Archer playing his first test in 4 years, and he made an ordinary start in the second innings, bowling half volleys. To get him fired up, to get the best out of such an attack is much more difficult. To identify that this is the moment where we have to do it all. England did that better. India are an inexperienced team. Shubman Gill is now captain only in 8 first-class matches. But India also showed signs of learning from the first test, where they actually very cussedly said, "We are not going to play a casual shot. You are going to get us out with good balls." And then something very little, I mean, not, and everyone is to blame for it, not just the cricketers. Just this milestone management started to happen before lunch on day three, when if India looked like they could have taken a big lead in that innings. And now that enough has been said about it, we don't need to go into details of what happened in that over. I mean, 2-3 overs before only they had started discussing. We want to go to. I would, if possible, I would ideally like to get to the 100 before lunch. And it's not just him. It's a human imperfection. And Kumar Sangakkara, whom everybody praises as a great batter, great captain, very street smart player. He was on air and he said, "I used to hate going into a break in the 90s. I would be trying to hit a boundary here." So they did something that was very natural, but something that was very avoidable. And in that, they happened to make uh, an error of judgment on the single, and Ben Stokes was just amazing on that. He chose the end where he could hit, and it was not like he had a choice. I mean, it was not like he saw Rishabh Pant go slow and hit, because the moment he started to field the ball, he knew he was going at the non-striker's end, because you could tell from his motion, the movement that he made, and he got it right. So these are the things that I mean, sometimes in life you make casual errors, and you learn lessons, and you vow to move on and not make the mistakes again. It's just happening that the lessons that the Indian team is being taught right now are the harshest possible lessons. I mean,
I,
they could have maybe just to collapse and still manage to come back in the match. Even in the first test match, those 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 small errors are just proving to be uh, catastrophic.
Yeah. KK, I want you to jump in, but I just want to
Mhm.
clarify, Siddharth, when you're saying that on the fourth evening they were struggling to pick the ball from a particular end, are you talking about like literally out of the hand, or was the pitch doing something, or what was it exactly
Yeah.
that made them struggle to
Just
pick the ball?
so it was just Ben Carse's height. Just from that spot, it was big, and only full balls and it only takes about a fraction of a second for you to be late on the ball. Uh, how do I explain? It's like, if you're batting well, the ball is coming from very clearly from one spot. Here, it was almost like at the origin of the ball was a little bit of a blur. It was just coming from anywhere, and that causes, I don't know whether it was a side screen or it's just very quirky. And both the teams had the same. I mean, England never were exposed to that in the evening, and it was only happening in the evening, not like it was happening in the morning, or it's some light angle, something. It's one of the quirks of cricket that you have to manage on the go.
So
So Juju is
yeah,
working with the lights also, it seems. Sorry, KK, you were saying.
yeah. So it's I mean, you could see that Gill was like late on like a lot of those full balls, right? Which you just don't see from anyone batting at like say a number four of that quality, let alone Gill, right? Uh, and I think the other thing England did there was like on the previous day, Bumrah had been getting the balls to really like jump at Crawley from the other end. From he was
Nursery,
hitting the spot from where it was like bouncing
nursery, and yes.
awkwardly. Yeah, that was from the nursery end, right? So I had expected that Cars and Archer would be really dangerous from that end, right? So it was also like very smart that smart, or it just worked out that Cars was bowling from the pavilion end, and there was this thing where the full balls they were struggling to pick up, and he was getting the full ball to swing a lot as well, and the ball that was slightly on the shorter side of a length from the pavilion end, it was keeping low. I think the bounce from that end right through the test match was lower, right? I think you were observing those numbers through the
Yeah,
test, if
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not wrong.
Yeah, pavilion end was keeping low, nursery end was getting good bounce.
Yeah. So, the ball that got Gill, it definitely, and the ball that got KL Rahul the next morning, they kept low as well, apart
KL
from,
Rahul was from nurse. KL Rahul was from nursery end,
right. Yeah.
and Stokes got it to seem a mile up the hill.
Yeah.
It was an amazing ball. It was unplayable.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was that. And the thing about the milestone is, yeah, I mean, it's a human thing, right? My only contention there is I'm sure this is happening in or most of the test matches where a batter is approaching a milestone and there's a break coming, and that changes the way they play. We don't talk about it because most of the
They
time
get to
they don't get out. Most of the time they either like go into either that partnership continues into the break, or they've got their
yeah,
milestone or whatever.
yeah.
I think we're
And
talking so much. Yeah.
when we criticize it, we are called haters. Because
Yeah.
I was not happy with what was happening in the ODI World Cup.
With Kohli.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But it happens all the time. And when it works out, it's got like a fuzzy, feel good feeling to it as well, right? Like walking off at lunch, waving your bat, whatever. It's great. But it's the thing that people do a lot is jump on the guy when it goes wrong
Yeah.
rather than, okay, this is a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
widespread thing that can sometimes go
I
wrong, and
jump
you
on
are
the
on
guy
it.
every time.
And often KL Rahul happens to be the guy who gets caught in the crosshairs in these situations. That's
Yeah.
his bad juju. Like,
Okay,
And
well, we're using this word juju a lot. Let me elaborate a little bit for people who may be a little lost. The general point I think that we've been talking about through this
it's not
series
the
is
opposite
that
of skill.
it's
yeah,
it's not the opposite of skill, but just to kind of explain maybe what you guys are talking about, and you can correct me, is that for example in this test, India forced about 70 or 60 plus more false shots out of England than the other way around. Although that also, I mean, it's a stat that you can read different ways because England attempt more attacking shots. They're more likely to play false shots. Those false shots are sometimes less likely to go to the fielders. But I think there is an overall feeling that, look, India's bowling attack is, especially with Bumrah in it, the slightly more skilled bowling attack, the more rounded bowling attack than England's. And India's batters have shown better technique against a new ball than England's batters, the top four especially. And then there's this idea that, okay, how are India still 2-1 down in the series? And that's why we point to a lot of these unforced errors, the run out. Also, KL Rahul's dismissal straight after the run out. I mean, straight after getting the 100, which seemed like a bit of a lapse in concentration. There's Jadeja's dismissal at the end of day three down the leg side, which again, I'm always confused. People
That
call
is
that
juju.
unlucky. But I mean, surely that kind of stuff is avoidable. There's also, by the way, four drop catches by India in the test. Not as many as Headingley, so not as much of a talking point, but two very costly ones. There's a drop of Ollie Pope. Ollie Pope got 44, and as Siddharth was saying, that was the toughest time to bat. Him and Root took England past that first new ball. And then, of course, possibly even more costly, the drop of Jamie Smith on the second morning when India had England kind of on the ropes at that stage. So our India and another talking point was the change of ball on the second morning. Shubman Gill clearly asking the umpires, "Can I change the ball?" So is this inexperience, or are these unforced errors what is really costing India the series at this point since they're 2-1 down?
It's both. It's inexperience also, but if you're lucky, you get away with inexperience with some lessons which actually do not end up costing you test matches. It's in hindsight, with experience, I'm sure when the ball is doing so much, and Shubman Gill would actually try to hide it from the umpires. If it happens again in his career, and Bumrah is in a spell where everything is, there's a lot of uneven bounce, every ball looks like taking a wicket, and he sees the ball that is so clearly out of shape that it did not go through either of the rings. With experience, in hindsight, he will hide it from the umpire. He'll try to make sure the umpires don't even get to see it. But he also did not, you could not envisage getting a ball that clearly looked at 10 overs. What the ball that they got was, by conservative estimates, and I'm going by Stuart Broad on air, he's played 150 test matches, I think. He said this ball clearly looks like it's 20 overs old. So it's again, yeah, we will always criticize what is in our control, and probably in Gill's control was not choosing what he gets as replacement, but hiding it from the umpires. But who knew? Who knew what would happen?
and also the ball goes to the umpires at the end of every over.
But that they did not notice it. So
Hmm.
maybe two balls later they would have, or maybe they would not have. But I don't remember the umpires changing a ball out of their own accord in Test
Hmm.
cricket. It's either when they suspect some tampering has happened, and they cannot prove it,
Hmm.
and tampering has to be so waterproof that it has to be proven almost like in a court of law. So they quietly change it. If they put a penalty, then they are actually accusing teams of unfair play. So that unless they have video evidence, they will not do. They quietly change it, which is a very, very good practical solution they have found over the years to counter
Mhm.
ball tampering without actually bringing all the stigma that is related to it, and also making sure that the competition, the integrity of the competition is intact. Now, I don't remember them just changing a ball that is just out of shape out for no reason. It's either when it has been tampered with or when the fielding side complains. So I don't
Mhm.
know if they would have noticed it, but the fielding side did notice it, and in this case, they did bring it to their attention. And I think Shashri saw the whole footage again, and it happened so quickly. I mean, it was just a 2 second job. Akashdeep either at mid on or mid off notices it, hands it over to Shubman Gill, who's either at mid on or mid off, or vice versa, and Bumrah is at fine leg, Siraj is at the top of his bowling mark, and just Gill just takes it to the umpire. So probably if Gill has played uh 50 te 50 test matches and captain in 20, he will not do it. But what we are also judging this Indian team very harshly because if we remember, even like the same captain that we praise that we are now missing so much, Virat Kohli, his first few tests, he was he was equally good or bad in terms of tactics and selections. If he famously picked Karan Sharma, who was averaging 38, I think, in first class cricket ahead of Ashwin in that Adelaide Test match that India came so close to winning. Who knows what would have happened if Ashwin had been picked in that test. There are many selections that you could point out, many tactics that you could point out, and he learned, and he actually then became seismic change in Indian cricket, where India started to focus more on bowling than batting. So yeah, it's just that, and if we would not be discussing these things if India had won the match, it's a case of there being errors, yes, errors of inexperience, but those becoming very costly.
Yeah, and I just say one other thing, which is that you could equally look at England and like say the way Crawley got out to Nitish Reddy in the second innings, right? It's
Yeah,
like it's like a very transparent ploy to get you out caught
yeah.
exactly there because everybody knows you have a weakness of driving away from your body without getting your weight into the ball, all of that.
Against lower pace,
Yeah, again,
which is
slower
the
pace
reason
as
why
well.
Reddy
Two
was
of that,
introduced before Akashdeep in both the innings.
But
yeah.
We need to give
So
credit to the Indian planning and execution for doing that.
yeah, I know. So like sometimes when I watch Crawley or Pope, they played 50-50 test matches each, right? They get out in exactly the ways you expect them to get out. You watch
Yeah.
Pope, you're like, they're going to try to get him out LBW, and they try and they get him out LBW so much of the time as well, right? Now, sometimes, like, what do you do? Like, we'd be criticizing all of this right now if India had won and England had lost, and like, uh, you spoke about KL Rahul's shot, right? Like, of Bashir. And again, like, it looked loose, but I think Bashir, for all his faults, he's not a fully rounded bowler. His consistency isn't like what it could be, but he bowls really long spells. And the thing that England like him for is that he gets that dip, he gets that drop on the ball, which is what got Rahul out there. So I give like some credit to the bowler as well there. For bowling a good ball that got a guy out at 100. If you get that bit of drop, you end up, making the batter push further out than he wants to, and that's what happened there. So all these things can be looked at in like,
no, but I think the point I'm making is exactly what I'm getting at. That with England, their batters have clear flaws in their games which India are exploiting. You're absolutely right that a lot of their dismissals are predictable, but that is inherent flaws those batters have. With India, it seems like at times India are making errors that are not errors that they sort of, are predictable or that errors they made in the past. Rishabh Pant is not a bad runner between wickets where that's, an expected kind of dismissal. KL Rahul is an excellent cover driver. He's an excellent player of spin. So, in fact, it's more that
But
India are having dismissals that are unexpected, and that's what's making people go like, yes, it's an inexperienced side. Of course, we're judging them harshly. The reason we're judging them harshly is that for large phases of the series, they are looking like the better side. And they are somehow losing these key phases and managing, to lose the test. I also would say that maybe we are undervaluing fielding because England have fielded sensationally in this test. I mean, Stokes' run out is one thing. There have been at least four really, really
Roots
good
catch.
catches. Roots catch, Brooks catch in the gully. Brooks catch was as hard as Gill's catch of Pope. Archer taking that catch in his follow through, which, India missed some cotton balls like that. And India have not, and even Jamie Smith's catch to dismiss Gill first innings. Dhruv Jurel dropped almost exactly the same catch of Root in the third innings. It happened to be a no ball, so it wouldn't have mattered. But England have fielded better, but it also feels like, okay, why is India a side that does not have as many technical flaws in their batting, looks more in control when they're batting? Like Crawley didn't look in control in his innings. So when he got out to Reddy, it's like, okay, he could have got out 5 times before. He's edging Bumrah over the slips and all sorts is happening. Pope doesn't always look in control. India look in control and then they give it away. That's where
so
I think
that's
the feeling is that I mean a little bit more focus at key times could have made the series very different.
Yeah, so the other thing about that exact same point is that, Crawley could have got out so many times, but he didn't, and then he gets out to Reddy, right? Which comes back to that thing that, people hate us for bringing up, which is like control and like, false shots. I think when India was 7 down, how many in the fourth innings, how
It
many false
was
shots?
28 false shots and 7 wickets.
Which is an absurdly like, unusual,
Unlucky.
like, yeah, yeah. So, and once you get to that point, I mean, it takes a miracle to come out of that, right? And
Yeah.
whereas, like, Crawley, like you said, he could have got out any
He might
point.
have played 28 himself.
Yeah, on the first morning, like I think before Reddy finally broke that partnership, I think between them, Bumrah and Siraj had induced 34 false shots against the openers. So,
And that
you know
spell
that
of Siraj spell to Root after lunch on day 4, I think it was more false shots than middle or in control shots. Where he didn't get any wicket from them.
Yeah, he kept beating
And
him on the inside edge, but it was going over the stumps or going down like most of the time on the pad.
so just coming to casual strokes, I agree with you in the first test. In the first test,
yeah.
they were absolutely casual. And Gill identified it, and Gill said it started with my shot. I'm not going to do it again, and I'm going to. Then I earn the right to tell the others to not do it again. And in the third test, they did not do it. Uh, Rahul error in judging length, probably induced by the dip on the ball, but it was still a traditional spin bowling dismissal that sides work at. It was not like he's caught in the deep of, there's only two guys in the deep and he has found one of them. It was not that kind of a dismissal. There was a slight error in judgment, which can happen when you spend so long at the wicket. He thought it was going to be probably 6 inches fuller, and it had the width to go and cover drive it, which he tried. Those kind of errors can happen, and those kind of errors should not be a problem.
I want to talk about where else India have, like, why else India have found themselves 2-1 down in the series, because we are talking about this largely from the India angle, this being a podcast with three Indians on it. The other sort of feeling is India being a bit conservative? I mean, they've been conservative with their team selections, that's been clear, but it's kind of worked for them, I would argue. I don't think selection was as much of a talking point in this game, especially with Washington Sundar doing what he did. With the bat, there are examples, for example, in that phase where Smith and Cass just got England, those 80 extra runs in the first innings. That's a clear example of a stage where England were under the pump, 7 down, 270 for 7. There's a change of ball, there's a dropped catch, but England pounce on that moment. They go hard, they realize India have got a bit flat, and they get 80 runs in that phase. India haven't really done that through the series. Especially if you look at the last few wickets, there's been no phase where India have batted at more than 4 and over. It was a talking point at Headingley where they were slow after tea on the fourth day. They were batting at 3 and over. Even at Edgbaston, it was a talking point. It didn't end up mattering because they won, but there was a lot of talk about how they batted on day four. Here, you can look even at a 7-8 over spell in the first innings where India got only about 15 runs with the tail. Second innings again, Siddharth was bringing up the point about Reddy and Jadeja, even that partnership, them just hitting to the ball to the fielders. Is England's intent a big factor in them being 2-1 ahead in the series?
I mean, yes, in a way, but I also think like, the same thing that makes them select these teams, right? India, which is that they pick like three all-rounders to try and get like the batting depth that they need. At some level, they need to do that because you spoke about Cars. He bats at what, 9 or 10 for them. He's not an all-rounder, but he's good enough to like for Smiths to not have want to farm the strike, for Cars to be able to hit some boundaries, to be able to like put some pressure back on India and stuff, right? At some level, it's just a question of ability. India don't have like bowlers, like genuine bowlers who can play like that. And that's, yeah, that does kind of affect how they can bat as a lower order. And yeah, so Jadeja, because of the way Bumrah and Siraj managed to hang on in the second innings, that method kind of brought India close. Washington Sundar in the first innings looked like he was going nowhere, and then he tried one attacking shot and he got out. So those are the kind of situations that these recognized batters can get into when you don't have anyone you can trust at the other end. And I think maybe one or two times in a series it can go the other way. But for India, whenever it's happened to them that they've got into the lower order, most of the time it's like boom, they're gone, right? And the one recognized guy looks kind of like clueless while everybody else just collapses around him. And that's just, I think, a function of having the personnel that India has.
And also, this is something that you know, sometimes when you're talking about
Pass.
Smith and Cars, yeah, scoring those quick runs. I think Thakur was trying the same thing
Hmm.
in Leeds.
Headingly, yeah.
He got out, and we know how we panned them. And so uh, there is always two sides to it. India have clearly decided that no, we are not going to, and I think that is the right thing to do. We are not going to give them a look in. And even without taking risks, India have been scoring at 4 and over. I think we are scoffing at 4 and over, which is a little harsh. It is it is a very good run rate. Until until about this innings happened where Jadeja had to farm the strike and many runs were turned down. India's run rate was almost matching England's
Yeah, yeah.
for
The
the
top order has scored quickly. I don't think there's been a question about that. I
yeah.
think it's more.
So it is coming to these. We are discussing these fine margins. These are the things that uh, how do you say it? These are not the things that players are picked for. Cars is not picked for doing that with the bat. Uh, if if India uh, if India keep doing what they've been doing, they'll be back in these situations, and I think they are more than likely to come back into these possibly dominating situations again. It's just that they do not make these kind of mistakes again. What is happening is very rare. For a side to be so far behind in terms of skills and managing, holding length, the quality of bowling, for them to be winning 2-1 is very rare. And it is I think we are trying to look at uh, and we're trying to rationalize things that cannot be controlled. Sometimes it's You are humans, you are there in this highly intense environment for 7 hours, 7.5 hours every day. You will make some mistakes. There will be some moments of casual errors. It's just that in India's case, it is proving to be more costly than it is for England. As he pointed out, as Karthik pointed out, England are also making mistakes.
The
They're making,
length stats in this test were heavily favoring India, right? In terms of them
yeah,
hitting the 6 to 8 meter length more.
yeah. Or attacking the stumps or doing anything.
Hmm. Yeah, that's, I guess, the frustration for a lot of India fans that all these metrics are showing India should win, and somehow they're 2-1 down. Anyway, we've talked about a lot of things. We haven't even got into, for example, the extras India conceded. Again, I think questionable how many of those were avoidable. Jurel, it looks terrible on the I mean, on the score sheet, 25 buys. Some of those he had no chance against. Some of those just did stuff off the pitch.
And
But we haven't discussed something that actually I think probably people are discussing even more than the cricket, which is now this new spice that has been added to the series. And I'm making a gesture that should let you know what I'm coming to. But let me ask it this way. One, has it gone over the line, some of the sledging? And also, how does this now affect the rest of the series? Because, I mean, it was excessive on day five. England were going at India really hard. Every batter that came in was copying it from them. Perhaps you can say absolutely justified considering India did the same thing. Did it make India nervous? Is my first question. And secondly, what does this do for the rest of the series?
I don't know if it made India nervous because how do I tell?
From the
Uh,
way they played,
I I don't know either way. I mean, from the way they played, we are also accusing them of not being hurried. Nerves means making nerves generally tend to translate into hurried decisions and frantic actions. We're also accusing them of being too sedate, and at the same time, but yeah, I am away from. I keep myself away from moral posturing on this. It's great for the series. It shows these are two teams going hard at each other. They are going to not stop at any length. They are not. They are not making any racist, classist, casteist abuse at each other. Uh, they're showing it. They care. They're showing it matters. And does it give them a competitive advantage? They believe it does, which is why they're doing it. And they are professional cricketers. They know the line. They know the line very well. Nobody will cross it. They and it is not even so bad that they have started hating each other. It didn't even take 30 seconds, I think, for England to come and empathize with Siraj. They knew they kind of knew, yeah, we were almost role playing at that time to achieve something, to get either arouse us to give something that is not physically possible to this contest, or draw some errors out of the opposition. And what happened on the third evening it was, right? Yeah, third evening was anything else. I would have been very disappointed. What happened on the third evening? If England had let India bowl 2 overs, or if India had quietly taken it lying down, that England are delaying. If anything less, I would have been disappointed. And I'm a great fan of what Zach Crawley did. And I actually would have been disappointed, if when he was hit, if the ball has slightly kissed my glove and I do not call the physio, I would have been disappointed. Yeah, like we say about Jadeja, that us people who follow cricket more closely know him as a great all-rounder, but the casual general public does not, because he does not have that kind of exclamation performance where he has won an epic test for India, either with a wicket in the dying moments on the fifth innings, or with the bat on in such a chase. But we know he's great. Similarly, we know this series was going great, but now it has caught the wider imagination of public, which is, I think, good news for Test cricket.
yeah, and I love there's this beautiful hypocrisy that happens in these situations, right? Where
Yeah,
India know that if they are batting, they are going to try to waste as much time as possible. So the India are
absolutely.
absolutely aware of why England are doing this. They would do the same thing in those situations, but they are going to get angry as hell because that's what you do in that situation, right?
Yeah.
So, and if the shoe had been on the other foot, it would have been exactly the same again. Like,
Yeah, I think
somebody,
I think KL Rahul
he
immediately,
did it at Headingley. KL Rahul, I think we made
it's
Chris Woakes turn around at least 3 or 4 times. I think it was before tea or something, where India wanted to get to the tea break, and KL Rahul wasted a lot of. He was not ready for a single ball from Chris
yeah,
Woakes in that spell. He was
and
constantly making Woakes go back after
and
one or two sets of his run up.
there used to be a lovely kind of ceasefire on every evening because third evening you've just been in each other's face and have been going Stella. Uh, If you know that's the Seinfeld reference, Stella, and then immediately, like it takes 5 minutes, and KL Rahul goes on air and says, "I can empathize with what they were trying to do."
Yeah, and I
Even
think I
want,
yeah.
I don't want to face 2 overs. I want to face 1 over. So all that is it's great for the game. It's great theater. Everybody's talking about it. It's not just cricket nerds, but it's getting onto the front pages. And as long as I said, this professional cricketers they know very well what the line is. As long as it's not racist, it's not hateful, it's not abusive, nothing wrong in it.
Yeah, and I think it is a good sign that it's not crossing the line was there was one moment on day five when Jadeja and Cast collided mid-pitch during the run. And then Cast was actually coming at Jadeja, but one Jadeja actually took the option there of just explaining that, look, I didn't see you. And Ben Stokes immediately got in between them. And he diffused that situation because he realized, okay, this might become a little too much now if we're actually getting, chest to chest and stuff. And he diffused it very quickly and said, okay, come on, let's play on. So that's a good sign that things are not getting, not crossing any lines in terms of behavior of the players on the pitch. Anyway, I'll come to you, KK, I mean, we'll just wrap up by talking about now what can India do different in the next test, or should they not do anything different? Is this just now a question of, fine tuning a few things, but basically sticking with the same plan?
yeah, I think the temptation from the outside would always be to, like, change things after a defeat like this. But they did most things like right in this game, and they've done most things right through the series. So, and I want to, like, kind of put my hand up. I would still love to watch this, like, see Kuldeep Yadav play, or whatever. But I think the thing that maybe I have done is underestimate the bowling ability of Washington Sundar, and when the conditions are helping him, Nitish Kumar Reddy as well, right? And both of them showed they have a certain amount of quality with the ball to get wickets as well. And so if conditions are similar, I wouldn't do anything different. The thing is, Old Trafford, I think, generally has more bounce, way more bounce than Lords for sure. So more bounce than most English grounds. So that might uh, make them think of either bringing in a fast bowler like Rasid Krishna or Kuldeep, who as a wrist spinner could do something with that bounce. But I think these three are the best fast bowlers in India's squad. So I find it very hard to change that combination. And after, like, what's happened here, I think if conditions really demanded, I would still look at bringing Kuldeep in somehow. But otherwise, yeah, probably like stick to the same combination and stick to the same way of playing.
Yeah, the most important thing is to again repeat what you have done, and you've seen it has not brought you results. You're still trailing 2-1, but the most important thing right now is to be able to believe that you are the better team, and you just need to repeat it and get into those positions first instead of falling away by chasing ghosts here, chasing shadows. You by jumping at shadows. You have to believe that your batting unit is at its soul, a better batting unit than England's. Your bowling is better than England's. Things have not gone your way, but you need to back yourself to get into those positions again. And if they can bowl like they did on the fourth day, it was an awesome performance where there was no let up. Of course, the conditions made it possible, but India did not give any even a single easy over that day. So if they can keep doing it, they should be able to get into these positions again, and they're not going to lose every time from these positions.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. We've actually discussed a lot of what India did wrong. They did a lot of stuff right in this test, but I mean, Siddharth has
And
touched
that's
upon some of it there, especially with that bowling performance on day four.
and that's the more significant stuff to repeat, which is not usually noticed, to be able that repeatable stuff of judging the length well every time, getting into good positions every time. That is the foundation of Test cricket, which India are doing well. So it is not, as they say, all doom and gloom.
Yeah. Anyway, that's been this episode. We have rock and rolled it. So now I guess the audience can decide whether what the final decision is in terms of this. Is it out? Is it not out? Or is it editor's call? You guys decide.
TV umpire to director, we have a review. Can you rock and roll it for me, please?